All right. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for attending. Um, Want to start off first that this is not going to be a perfect presentation. Uh, I want to keep this as authentic as possible. There will be mistakes. I will slur my words, jumble on words, but I want to make this as real life presentation as possible. So, with that being said, let's get into it. Welcome to Oklahoma City Safe Together training. This training that you are watching right now is pre-recorded, so that way I can distribute it out throughout the state and we can complete Safe Together training. This course was intended to be done in person, and we have done many of the Safe Together trainings in person throughout the year. I just wanted to make sure that we had this content on a way to share easily with new hires coming in, or maybe people that were on vacation or they weren't able to attend the class. So this is my way of making sure everybody's seeing the material. So keep in mind as we go through the presentation that this is meant to be in person. It's supposed to be interactive, a lot of feedback back and forth. So we will be missing some of that interaction. But keep that in mind as the presentation goes on and how it flows, that is the way that this course is designed. So let's get into it. Ken Blanchard had a quote saying, "None of us is as smart as all of us." And I think that's very true. It takes a village, definitely strength in numbers. If we're ever trying to do anything just single handedly, you're not going to make it very far in life. And that goes with safety as well. If I'm the only one that is really watching, we're going to have very poor safety culture. So it's going to take everybody on the boat, really being proactive in the way we look at safety. So let's get into it. Uh, Here's some pictures of what we've done already with Safe Together training. This was our management team in the warehouse on the right. Ownership is a big theme out of this. And then also this was the warehouse frontline team. So you can kind of see the way that this class is supposed to flow and interact. It was great discussions. I think we learned a lot. So I wanted to share that part of the presentation. And you can see more photos here. Um, we all get in a circle. We say one thing about each other, maybe something that your coworkers don't know. And it's just a great exercise to break the ice, get everyone to be interactive, and just start a really good discussion around safety. So there's going to be three modules you see today. Safety as our way of life is module one, and that's what we're about to get into. Module two is challenge your perception, and then module three is act together to be safe together. So I'm going to try to stay on pace. My goal is to keep this about an hour long. Um, so we'll go ahead and get into module one. Safety is a way of life. So right off the bat, why are you here? Reason you're here and the reason you're watching this screen right now is because Anheuser-Busch cares about your safety and your well-being. I, as your safety partner, care about your safety and your well-being. And one way I want to do that is I want to consistently search feedback from the people that are on the ground of what hazards you're running into, what controls we can put in place, what procedures we can put in place, anything that we can do to make your job safer. I am all on board for it. So this is giving you a voice. It's giving you a way to look through a safety lens, um, and identify some of these risks that we run into in our operation. So that way, as a business, we can put controls in place to mitigate those risks. So ownership. What does ownership mean to you? Ownership to me means caring, means observing, means leading, collaborating, and protecting. So let's get into some of those words. Caring. What does it mean to be caring? Caring means you're looking after others. You're looking after your coworkers. You want to make sure that you called out a safety hazard because maybe your other coworker wouldn't have seen it or didn't know about it, and that could have prevented an injury. I don't think anybody ever wakes up and says, I want to get hurt today, right? So caring is looking after your fellow coworkers, right? Observing. Observing to me is showing ownership by paying attention to your surroundings, paying attention to your daily functions, paying attention to your work environment, and escalating any problems that you see to your direct management so we can make this a safer workplace for everyone to participate in, right? And then leading in ownership. Leading to me is being proactive, not waiting for someone else to make the decision, not waiting for someone else to pick up that broken glass bottle, but leading by example, right? Not by words, but by example. Go pick up that beer bottle that's broke and don't just anticipate that someone else is going to pick that up. That to me would be an example of leading. Collaborating. I think that's very important to collaborate for ownership. It's going to be tough to do just by yourself. You're going to have to collaborate and work with others. So once again, like I said, to open up this presentation is our strength is in numbers. The more people we can bring in and collaborate, the more opinions we get, different perspectives, different experiences. So the more we collaborate, it just makes us that much more powerful, man. So, and the final word here is protecting for ownership. Really, just taking care of one another, protecting your fellow man or female, and just taking care of one another, just showing love and making sure that you are doing your end and speaking when you see things that aren't safe, and also putting action to it. So let's start off with a warm-up exercise. If we were in person right now, I would stand everybody up in a line. I would read these questions that you're going to see. And if you tend to agree, you take a step forward. If you tended to disagree, you take a step back. So everyone is responsible for their own safety. As I'm reading this to you, would you agree with that statement or disagree with that statement? And I want you in your head to review why you agreed with it or why you disagreed with it. There are no wrong answers. There are no right answers. My opinion, I believe everyone is responsible for their own safety, right? The goal of zero accidents is impossible. We will never get there. Do you tend to agree with that statement or do you disagree with that statement? I am very optimistic. I always look at the glass half full, not half empty. The goal of zero accidents is impossible. We will never get there. I disagree with that statement because if we have all the right processes in place and we're coaching and everyone knows the procedures and everybody is coming in with the right mindset, any incident is avoidable. So as your safety partner here, as I do incident investigations, every single time there's a root cause. Well, if I would have done X, Y, and Z, this incident would have never happened. So I disagree with that statement. I do believe that zero accidents is absolutely possible. For people to work safely, it is enough to have well-documented procedures and a safety policy that tolerates no exceptions. Do you agree with that statement or disagree with that statement? So for me, I would say it is not enough. Just having procedures and safety policies in place, it's a great start. It's a document that you have in place. It's a document that you can review annually, quarterly, whatever. But it's always going to take a lot more than a piece of paper. If we have a piece of paper that says these are our actions, and then you go out in the workplace and your actions aren't represented, that's in your SOP, it's going to take a lot more to work safely. So that's why I disagree with that statement. So it was just a fun little exercise. Once again, it's intended to break the ice. I hope that kind of got your brains turning a little bit and thinking about safety in a different way. So here's our program objectives. Shared belief at all levels that safety is our way of life, that we feel involved in identifying solutions and empowered to make the right decisions leading to autonomous operators. Everyone takes time to think and act based on increased perception to risk. Everyone has the confidence to speak up with a caring attitude. And everyone is engaged and feels valued in supporting the transformation of our safety culture. So as we go through the presentation, this is what the program objectives are. We want you to empower you. We want autonomous teams. We want our people doing the work having a great deal of input and feedback to prevent unsafe work environments. So as we go through, please keep that in mind. And at the very end of this, presentation, there will be some questions at the end that I will review for your feedback, so we can ultimately make this place as safe as we possibly can, right? With that being said, let's get into Module 1, safety as our way of life. So why safety is a value? Why safety is a value, not our top priority? As a core value, safety becomes a guiding principle behind everything we do. So here's a chart showing transformation from, which is a priority, and to a value. So before we can do this, I want to really break down the difference between priority and value. And in person, this really brings on good conversations. Typically, what I do is I ask the question, what does priority mean and what does value mean? Because they're very close. So after many classes of doing this presentation, I've heard many different answers. But let me break it down to you. A priority is something that's important at the moment. Doesn't mean that that priority will be important tomorrow or next week or months later, but that priority is now, right? That is a priority. A value is constant. Priorities change, values stay constant. So we want safety to become a value and not a priority. A priorities can change, right? Values are constant. So we want to transform safety from a priority to a value. With that being said, zero injuries mindset is a priority. Our value that we're looking for is zero risk exposure mindset. We're not chasing numbers. That's a priority. We're chasing values, and chasing values is getting our risk down. Priority, tolerance of or blame for unsafe behaviors. And a value would be we coach each other and hold ourselves accountable. Priority, leaders have all the answers. Values, we are all empowered to find the answers. So whatever context you want to say leaders is, and in this, I'm going to refer it to your direct supervisor or your managers, but leaders do not have all the answers. Great leaders collaborate, right? That's what we talked about on ownership. It's one of the words, collaboration. So as leaders, we don't have all the answers. We need to collaborate with our team. Many different people with experiences and that do the job every day, that see it from a different perspective, different angles. Uh, so no, value, we are all empowered to find the answers, not just your direct supervisor or manager. We are all safety professionals. So priority, safety and health, safety and well-being is a value. Priority, it is a responsibility of the safety manager. No, value, we are all safety leaders. You heard me just say it. I may be the only one that has safety attached to his title, but everybody, raise your hands. We're all safety leaders. If we don't have that mindset of being safety leaders, our safety culture is going to be very poor. And I believe that we have many leaders here. I believe we have people that look out for one another. So I would not put us in that category. I think many people are looking for answers, and many people wear that safety hat. And then good safety is a priority, and then a value, world-class safety. That's something that I want to accomplish here in Oklahoma City. Is I don't want us to just be good at safety. I want us to be world-class at safety. I want it to not be a priority, which priorities change. I want it to be a value, and values are constant. So let's get into the safety culture maturity model. Right here, you're seeing the Bradley curve. And to explain the Bradley curve, we're going to start with reactive, and then you got dependent, independent, and interdependent. The easiest way to describe the Bradley curve here that you see with the safety culture maturity model is, kind of treat it like our lives, right? You start off as an infant, a baby, which would be this reactive stage here. Um, our parents are completely taking care of us. We're relying completely on natural instincts. We are very reactive, right? So this is the early stage of your safety culture. Who shouts the loudest gets things done. There's no prioritization. Silos, departments are the enemy. Sales did it, warehouse did it, delivery did it. That is a reactive state of your safety culture, right? So, and it's very much punishment and fear driven. I do not believe we are in the reactive state. This would be your stage one. So let's move into dependent, which is more of a supervision state. So think of this like age-wise, you are in elementary school now, fifth grade, roughly. You're more dependent. You can put your shoes on, you can follow instructions, stuff like that. But let's relate it to work. Your supervisor decides what gets done. It's rules driven, command and control. Functional training is the only answer. And you have rigid and fixed roles, right? So this is very much the dependent stage is supervision. Your direct manager, supervisor is telling you exactly what to do. Not too much autonomy here. Then your next stage is your independent stage, right? So your independent stage is yourself. You know to do the right thing, even if it's extra. You have internalized the business goals. You know the operation and what we're trying to accomplish here. You have good practice and habits, good personal mindset and behaviors, and individual recognition, right? This is where we are more a teenager. We're independent, right? We know to do the right things. We're self-motivated. We do things on our own to make this a better place, right? Better operation. And then finally, your dream state of your safety culture is your interdependent. And this is what we call autonomous teams. Autonomous teams is the goal that we're trying to get to, everyone. Very few businesses are able to get to autonomous teams. And I think it's something here that we can accomplish. I think we got the right people. I think we got the right processes. And I think we got the right mindset. Between those three things, I don't think there's anything that can stop us from getting to autonomous teams. So autonomous teams, to relay this to, starting off as a baby, more elementary school, teenager, and interdependent would be a grown adult, right? Things to get done on business value and criteria, joint goals with other departments and disciplines, stepping outside of your own role to help others. Maybe this is your role and this is what your tasks are, but you see your fellow coworker struggling and you step away to help them and get back on task because ultimately you're autonomous. You have the freedom to help and, push the business further and continue to trend upwards, right? Within reason. So one thing I want you to see here is compliance is your reactive state and your dependent state. This is very much supervision, right? Your manager, direct supervisor is telling you exactly what to do. You're not given much choice to do other things, right? And then independent and interdependent, you have more choice within parameters, right? One thing that we are going to here is we are trying to empower our front line to be autonomous, right? We have business models, we have SOPs. It doesn't mean that you can choose to just do whatever you want. But once you are mature enough and you understand the business, you can start making those calls to become more autonomous, right? And finally, businesses that stay in the reactive and dependent, these are operations mediocrity. Okay. This is where most businesses are. And then operations excellence is independent and interdependent. As your safety partner here, I would say that we hover between dependent and independent. And a few of us are autonomous teams. I would say we're probably 50-50 here. My goal is by the end of next year to get us more right here in between independent and interdependent. So let's summarize what autonomy means. So autonomy is the capacity of a rational individual to make an informed decision. Doing it because you understand why, because it makes sense, you choose and want to do it. It's the right thing to do. So I think this picture symbolizes autonomy really well. You're out in the open field. You have autonomy, freedom, choice to empower the business, to empower you, to empower the business to trend upwards, right? So let's play a game. Once again, if we were in person, we'd all be in tabled groups, but I still want to go through the exercise. So we're going to match the behavior picture shown on the screen to the corresponding Bradley curve stage. So let's get into it. So we got our reactive, which is your natural instincts. This is like being an infant. You got your dependent stage, which is supervision, right? You're being told what to do. And then you got your independent, which is self, taking care of yourself. And then you got your interdependent, which is teams, right? You're taking care of each other and you're collaborating. I'm going to let you see that picture and let you think for a few moments where you would put that. So this is going to be supervision, which is dependent. You got your manager here pulling everyone else with them. Once again, I'm going to pop the illustration up and then give you a few moments to decide, is it reactive, dependent, independent, or interdependent? So this is interdependent. Obviously, everyone's got their hands in. We're being a team here. We're collaborating. You got some pointing going on. Where would you put this? Right. Reactive. Very much blaming other departments. It's sales' fault. It's warehouse's fault. It's delivery's fault, right? Rather than collaborating and being interdependent and working together as a team to figure the solution out. Right? Self, independent. It is not my job. There are people here who are paid to do this. Reactive. I have the right to refuse a job if it cannot be done safely. Correct. Independent. You can refuse any job that you feel is, if you deem it unsafe, you can refuse to do that job. You have full stop work authority. We look out for each other because all of us can be distracted. That's an interdependent. Uh, we, right? We, not I, we. Autonomous teams, teamwork. It's not us, it's the contractors. That's a reactive mindset. It's natural instincts. It's blaming other people rather than taking ownership. If managers don't stay on top of things, I don't need to abide rules and procedures. That is a dependent mindset, right? That's very much supervision mindset rather than being independent and interdependent autonomy, right? It's not always the manager's. Yes, your manager has responsibilities and should be on top of things, but if you're relying on your manager to do everything, you're not going to be a very strong team. Uh, the managers are the best, are the teams that are working together and collaborating. I'd rather stay pragmatic and not go overboard with all these safety efforts. That is dependent, right? We pride ourselves on having a high standard of safety. That's interdependent. Once again, we, not I, not blaming others, but we. We work together to assess the risk of an unusual task, right? That's interdependent. I am responsible for my own safety. That is an independent, that's self, right? I believe everybody is responsible for their own safety. Let's be careful not to get caught doing things. That is a reactive mindset, right? Not a very positive mindset to have. My manager will tell me what to do and how to do it. That is a dependent mindset. Once again, we're looking for supervision rather than getting that supervision, learning what your job is, and then executing what your job role is and some, right? How can you make it better? How can we drive our business? How can we do it more efficiently, but more importantly, more safely? I'm aware of the risk around me. That is self, right? You are starting to identify hazards around you. You have that ability to understand the risk. And the reason we do all these is we're trying to drive the safety culture mindset from self to a team. So where are we? Want you to be truthful, but this will be a question that will be followed up. Where do you think we are from a level of 0 to 8 on the maturity model, right? Do you think we're reactive? Do you think we're dependent? Do you think we're interdependent, interdependent? Um, I look forward to seeing everybody's answers to this. I would say that we're a 4, that we hover to 5 sometimes. But I'm curious what others think. So let's get into the Barrett's pyramid. So right off the bat, um, at the very bottom of your pyramid is your foundation, right? So we got at-risk behaviors and unsafe conditions, right? That's your foundation. That's what we're looking for, right? That's what I'm trying to train everybody to understand what your at-risk behaviors are so we can fix those before it goes up the chart. So if we got at-risk behaviors, we're doing things unsafely. We have unsafe conditions in the workplace. That could lead to incidents that you see in the next block. These incidents could lead to injuries, which is first aid, right? And then first aid is a pretty minor injury, but it could escalate to an MTI, which is a medical treatment. So that would be, let's say somebody hits their head, right, on something and creates a laceration. They have to go get stitches. That would be an MTI. And then you got MDI, which is modified duty incident. So an MDI would be somebody's given restrictions. So somebody stepped out of the cab of their truck, broke their ankle. They are now on restrictions. So that would be modified duty. And then LTI is lost time incident. This is what we never want to have as a company, and for you, for yourself either. No one ever wants to lose time. Everyone wants to be healthy enough to do their role and do their job and make it home safely to your families. So an LTI is lost time. An example of that could be someone tears their ACL and requires surgery and is out for 2 months. And then up here, I hope I never ever have to report any of these, but you got fatalities. And that would be as worse as it gets, right? That's the very top of the pyramid. So down here, you have drivers, which are preventative measures in this green box. This is our ways of being proactive, predictive, and preventative processes. So what do you think are examples of things represented here? Like, what do we do to identify and communicate unsafe conditions, unsafe acts, and high-risk tasks? So I can tell you a few things that we do as your safety partner here. We have risk assessments that we do for each department, for each process, safety monitoring. Supervisors and managers have a target of how many safety monitorings that they do a month. So this would be walking around different, if you're at the warehouse, walking around different rooms and a safety monitoring is like a checklist of safety items to review to make sure that our workplace is safe. And if there are hazards, we have an action log and that we're addressing them. Observation and feedback, right? This is a form of feedback. SIF management. So SIF is, a significant incident that could have led to a fatality. If we have an incident that is that dramatic, maybe a CDL driver got in a truck accident, right? And somebody was carted off in an ambulance. That would be a SIF, right? That's a major incident. And something we do here is we have a 7-day hot seat call, or we have a next day hot seat call, 7-day follow-up, and then 30-day follow-up. So we do that with zone. We have to do an in-depth investigation, figure out root causes, and then we have to report that out to zone, and make sure that we're following up on that, right? And good thing about that is I get feedback from people all across the country on ways that Oklahoma City can improve here. So those are just a few examples of predictive and preventative processes that we do to basically prevent incidents. Adopting a systemic approach, person, system, and infrastructure. So your typical workplace hazards. You think you can name them? You got 5 of them. You got physical. You got ergonomic, biological, chemical, and the 5th one most people don't get, but it's the psychological. Those are the 5 types of hazards that you're going to see in the workplace. So let's cover physical first, right? So right here in this picture, you got a forklift. Looks like it hit this gentleman here. He's down for the count. That would be a physical hazard, right? Struck against. So that would be physical. Anything that is physically, making contact with you would be an example of a physical hazard. Next, you got ergonomic, which is a huge hazard that we have here. Ergonomic injuries. That's why you always are seeing me on WhatsApp posting safe lifting best practices. It really does make a difference, lifting with your legs and not your back, and keeping things in your green zone, and using Briotix power moves, the stagger stance, or not lifting above your head, not lifting with one hand but 2 hands on each item. So ergonomics is a big one. We got to take care of our backs. Biological. So a good example of biological is, I'll give you a little personal story here of me. I haven't always done safety. In my 20s, I worked for a construction company that installed underground storage tank systems, basically gas stations. And anyways, the owner of the company had some land, and we were slow one day, so he had me go out to his land and cut down some trees. So I'm cutting all these trees down, and wake up the next day, and I am all itchy all over, right? So I ended up actually getting poison ivy from cutting down those trees at his ranch. So that would be an example of biological hazards, right? And then chemical, kind of in the name. I'll bring it back. I just told you I worked for a company that installed gas stations. We dealt with fuel. So fuel can be a chemical that is hazardous to your health, right? So you don't want to breathe it in, anything like that. So there's definitely hazards there. And then finally, the psychological piece is a big one. A lot of times, people are going through things outside of work, and it's hard to disconnect. So I never want to forget the mindset piece of it, being depressed, or maybe things are going on in your life and you're not all focused on your current job or your task, right? That can lead to incidents because your head's not in the right place. And I've actually had that here at AB before, where people have came to me after incidents and just said that their head wasn't in the right place. And I think that's a very common thing that many people go through. So if you are one of those people that you may be going through some things, Anheuser-Busch offers EAP, which is an online counselor that you can reach out to. So After you're watching this, if that is a resource, please reach out to HR or me, and I can get you that service. So a few reasons just to kind of highlight psychological, um, job content or role can cause some of that depression, right? Workload, long hours, pressure, emotional stress. That's why we don't want anybody working over 12 hours for our drivers specifically, right? We're trying to keep your workload hours down. So as a site, we are at 8 hours on average, which is fantastic work. But we still got, ways to improve on some of those measures, right? So culture and personal relations can be an impact. Personal development can be a reason why people are um, having a tough time with their job mentally. I think Anheuser-Busch does a great job of countering that with career growth. This is one I've been with Anheuser-Busch for a year now, and one thing I can say is compared to the previous places I've been, this is the best place for personal development. You're going to be hard pressed to find a company that offers more personal growth than what you are seeing here at AB. And then finally, participation and control, lack of influence over the way the job is done. And that's a whole reason why we were trying to go to autonomous teams, right? Trying to empower you to be interdependent. Here's the Swiss cheese model. This is a great visual. This was actually published by James T. Reason in his book Human Error. In his book, he describes several well-known disasters, including Challenger Space Shuttle, and proposes a theory of accident causation, which is now known as the Swiss cheese model. So the Swiss cheese model is very popular in the safety world. And let's just go through it and I kind of explain to you why. So look at each cheese as a barrier, right? Or a layer. So your first layer is culture and leadership. Your second layer is equipment condition. Your third layer is safety procedures. Your fourth layer is safety routines and PPE. And your final layer is individual behavior, right? So under the right circumstances, you can follow my mouse here. If you go through the culture and leadership and you miss that and it just happens to fall through that gap or that opening there, it'll go to the second block cheese, right? Equipment condition. That lines up, it'll go to safety procedures. That lines up, it'll go to safety routines and so on and so forth. The holes in the barriers may result in an accident. And there's the line. So when all of these conditions align, this is when you have an accident and you have consequences. Ultimately, you are the strongest barrier because your behavior can impact a lot. If any one of us could figure out a bulletproof plan to influence behavior, you may become the richest person in the world. Right? This is my intention here with Safe Together training is to influence your behavior, to change your priorities to values, things that aren't, just a priority, but a value that are constant, right? So keep this in mind. You are the biggest direct influence we have in preventing a lot of these injuries because we rely on your feedback. We rely on you identifying a hazard and understanding I need to take a step back and reevaluate. And ultimately, that's how we improve and become a stronger operation, right? So safety responsibilities and interdependent safety culture. Individuals, keep area free of hazards. Zero safety risk taking for yourself and others. Accountable for risk mitigation and quality shift handover. Problem solving. That's what we want out of autonomous teams for individuals, right? We want your feedback. We want you having accountability for mitigating those risks. And ultimately, the goal is to have zero safety risk taking. Like if you know something is risky, let's find a better way to do it to lower that risk. And then as a team, we take care of each other. We build trust, through open communication. My door is always open. My phone, if you call me, I will always answer. Open communication here, not with just me, but all the management team here. We support each other to make safe decisions, and we continuously improve by coaching each other, right? So, and that's not just, manager to frontline. That's frontline to frontline. That's peer to peer. The more we coach each other and we give honest feedback to one another out of love, I think we can prevent injuries from happening, right? And then team leader, lead by example, build trust by having genuine communication with your team, safe work environments, providing adequate systems, equipment, resources, and tools, coach and encourage participation of everyone. So in this sense, I'm trying to be a team leader, trying to build trust with everyone, and this communication is open. Always trying to create a safe work environment by providing the best systems that we possibly can. Only way we can do that is, once again, feedback from you. So how to connect with your routine and what can you do better on a daily basis? What is your part in Safe Together? You are the foundation of safety as a way of life. Where do we need to go from a safety perspective? Identify your maturity level using the Bradley curve and identify what you can do to be more autonomous. How do we become more proactive in safety? Are you aware and working to control the risk in your area? Use a comprehensive view, Swiss cheese model. Who is responsible for safety? At interdependent stage, we are all responsible, right? Everyone is responsible. Once again, I might have the title of safety, but every single one of us is a safety professional, right? Call to action. How can I make a difference? So closing on module 1 as a safety as our way of life. How can you make a difference to our operation to not only protect yourself, but also protect the people around you? I want you to really think about that as we close module 1. I hope you learned a lot of things. So we will close this out. There will be some answer or questions at the end of module 1 for you to answer. And please, I am asking for honest feedback. I will be reviewing these so we can have some actions in place to make this a better place, right? Make it a better place tomorrow than it was today. Thank you, everybody.